Well, after the last two marathon episodes, I'm going to try to keep this brief. We will see how I do on the other side. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. I am your host. My name is Gary. I am a knitter and a crocheter and a sometimes designer, and every so often I pop over to this little corner of YouTube to show you what I've been working on and to give you some ideas on how you can take your love of crafting and do a little bit of good in the world with it. You can find me on social media over on Bluesky as Gary Knits and on Ravelry as Gary Knits and Rides. Here it is. I just opened, speaking of Ravelry, last week or the week before, I just opened a thread on fall projects, and I am going to open one today, if I remember to do it, on the upcoming Stephen West Mystery Knit Along, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. So head over to Ravelry and show us what you're working on. And you know what? I should probably start a little thread over there on Craftivism ideas. That would be a great way to source some of those, since I'm increasingly not on the Zuckerberg cinematic universe. You may have noticed that my Instagram feed has been basically erased by design. I'd meant to do that much earlier, and there probably won't be much there for the foreseeable future. But yeah, that's where I have often gotten my ideas for the Craftivism segment of the podcast, and maybe having a little thread on Ravelry where folks can share things would be a great way to get those ideas some more exposure. So we'll give it a shot. If you want links to everything that I talk about today, here, whoops, not there, but here is a QR code that will take you to the Google Docs, which is the same as the show notes down below. But if you're watching this not on your mobile device, you want to just scan that and get a copy of the Google Doc. That will have links to everything from patterns to yarns to Craftivism ideas that I talk about today. Hope you are all well. We've just crossed past the equinox, the fall equinox, I guess, here in the northern hemisphere. So I've definitely noticed that the days are getting shorter, most noticeably because it is not getting so bright in the morning, and that lets the dog sleep a little bit longer. Although at 13, 14 years old, she's just sort of like up whenever she wants to get up, and we're up with her. So, but I do appreciate the winter for many reasons, but for that, because the little circadian rhythms for her, if it isn't light outside, she's a little less fussy in the morning about getting up and sort of disrupting our sleep. So that's been nice, a nice little change. It has been busy. Things are getting crazy, just all the way around here. So wrapped up our Hollywood Bowl summer season with a concert this past weekend. The French electronic pop duo Air is on a tour. I thought it was an anniversary type thing, but it doesn't seem to be. I don't know if it's their debut, but their big first album, at least that I knew about, was called Moon Safari. Came out in 1998, I believe. But they're doing a tour where they're basically playing that album straight through in the first half of the show, and then they do some other songs in the second half. And they were doing it at the Hollywood Bowl. I don't know if they're doing it everywhere, but at the Hollywood Bowl, they were doing it with the orchestra, which was pretty cool. It's very chill, very mellow. I enjoyed it. I've always been a fan of that album. I don't think my husband was that into it. He was like, this is really like go to bed sleepy music, which it kind of is. Very dreamy, although it was also quite loud because they were trying to fill a big venue, but it doesn't have a lot of lyrics, and it's just kind of floating in space music. But I enjoyed it. We wrapped up the season with that. I had a business trip, quick turnaround trip to New York. Always loved being in New York. It was a little warmer than I was hoping. I was really hoping to get that crisp New York fall weather, but it was more like summer there. But in addition to business stuff, I was able to catch up with some friends, which was cool. And importantly, drop off the two big summer projects that I had been working on that were surprise gifts for friends of mine in New York. So the Zigzag scarf and my marled magic Schlanket shawl, Stephen West design that I did, a scrappy one for a friend of mine. Unfortunately, she got sick, so I didn't get to see her in person, but her partner was able to meet up with me, and I handed out the package. And so they were both very excited about and surprised, I think, by the projects. I don't have a picture of my friend with his scarf, but here's a picture of the marled magic blanket. They draped it over the back of their sofa, and their little dog Chloe immediately made it a little nesting spot for her. So I thought that was very sweet, and so they all seemed very excited. So I was happy to get those handed off. I loved working on both of them, and I always love making things for other people, even though I've said and promised that right now I'm pretty much focusing on knitting for myself, or just knitting for the process without any deadlines in particular. So that was really cool. And now we're just, back here and chores and lots of house stuff, seemingly. It's just like we've kind of at that point where we've been here for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, and like everything seems to be falling apart at exactly the same time. So we've had, different repair people coming in, and I've got another one tomorrow that I've got to clear out cabinets and stuff for this afternoon. So that's why I kind of want to keep this brief. But always a fun trip to New York. Before I get into Craftivism, I do want to announce the winner of the giveaway. So the prize this time were these two 50-gram skeins of pink yarn from at Haynes House. And as I said before, I think these were like at some point a holiday package because of the names. And so the winner is BRS Maryland. I know that is Beth. And Beth, I have your address, I believe, from D-Stash for Good and for other prizes and knit-alongs and things over the years. If something's changed, let me know. But I will try to get this out in the next week or so. I'm going to pause on the giveaways for the time being. One, I've made a good dent in sort of whittling down the prize tub, so it now actually will close, which is a plus. And just given the chaotic nature of things right now, not sure exactly when next episodes are going to be happening, and so I don't want to have people sitting out there waiting for an announcement for a prize. So when things get back a little bit more normalized, we'll get back into the maybe at least monthly giveaways. But for the time being, I'm going to just put a pause on that. But congratulations, Beth, on winning that. So let's talk about Craftivism. I have several things to talk about that have come across my feed in the last couple of weeks. The first one is an organization. It's called Peyton Heart Project. It is a 501c3. It was founded by a gentleman who lost his son Peyton to suicide. I think he was 13 or so when his son passed away, and out of that has grown this project, which involves knitting or crocheting. I think there may even be some sewn ones in there. These little hearts, and here's a picture of a pile of them. And these hearts are made, and then little words of encouragement are on a tag attached to the heart, and then these hearts are just scattered out in the world for folks to find them, to sort of brighten everyone's day and to kind of spread the word around suicide prevention and anti-bullying. Apparently, Peyton, before he took his own life, was the victim of a lot of bullying in school. So they have two ways that you can participate in this. One is making the hearts themselves, and then I guess either sending them to them or spreading them in the world. Or you can be a spreader of hearts, and they have a little map where people have shown where they've dropped, not individually dropped them, but what part of the world, and they've been spread in 50, I think 50 plus countries around the world. So you can reach out to the organization, and they will send you a pile of hearts that you can then sprinkle around the world, or your world, or you can make them and then I think either do them yourself or send them in. But I'm going to link down below to the website for the organization. They have sections on how to make their hearts. I will say they have very, very specific specifications that they would like folks to use to make the hearts, to make them a certain shape and a certain, they're hearts, so that's the shape, but a certain size, and the way that the tags are tied and things like that to, especially I think, prevent, because they're on little loops, prevent them from little kids getting them on the arms and necks or whatever, but just for safety reasons, I think, for more than anything. But they have some very specific guidelines on how they like the hearts to be made, and then also some information if you want to receive hearts to then spread around. So that is the Peyton Heart Project, and I can't remember. I can't remember where this came from. I feel like they were involved in one of the Fiber Fests that happened recently. Maybe it was DFW, but I saw some reference to it in someone's post from a Fiber Festival, and I did a little more research on the organization. They're based in Texas, but it seems like some of the founders are in New Jersey, and I know the family, the impetus for this, they were in Texas. So I think it's a really cool idea. Just a little something to let folks know that their lives matter, and someone out there is thinking about them and wants them to stick around. So Peyton Heart Project, go check that out. The second one is very interesting. It is a business called Cocoa Plum Sunglasses. They're based here in Southern California, I believe. I know it's California. I think it's Southern California. And the woman who founded it takes donated pharmaceutical pill bottles, the little orange ones, but I guess they come in other colors as well. I know our dog has green. Our dog's medicine is in green. All the ones I see are orange, but she collects 4 or 5 different colors of them. And then she has a process. They get shredded. They get sort of melted down. There's some molds. Some of them get, some coloring added to them. And she turns them into these, here's a picture, sunglasses and coasters. And so it's really, I think this is a very cool idea. And there are a couple other, not folks that do this specific thing, but this idea where donations become sort of the raw ingredients for a product that you then turn around and sell. But I think anything that gets plastics out of the world and into another use, more than just a single use little bottle, is great. And more power to her for having come up with a business plan where other people provide you with a big chunk of your cost of goods sold. So you can donate. I think she has some guidelines. Again, the link down below to her website. I think she says basically there's a certain type of plastic they have to be. That little symbol on the recycling symbol on the plastics will tell you which one it was. There's 4 or 5 colors she accepts. And she says basically, wait till you get 20 of them and then send them off to her. She also has a handful. I want to say there's probably 8 to 10 places around the country, several here in California. But I saw one in New Mexico, I think one in New Jersey, where you can actually drop off your pill bottles. And if you do that, if you send them in to her, if you I think also if you drop them off, then she will give you a discount code for a pair of sunglasses. So I think that's a really cool way to take some plastic not out of the world, but give it another life, and kind of do something fun with it. So interesting to see how this grows. I know she started with a particular style of sunglass. She did a Kickstarter to raise some additional money to invest in another mold. So now she has a second style of sunglasses, and she does these little coasters, which are kind of like little flower daisy shapes. So that is Cocoa Plum sunglasses. So if you have medicines and just are chucking those pill bottles into the recycling bin, here's another way you can do something with them. The next two are crochet related, and one of them is a fundraiser. The other one I just thought was genius and fun and awesome. The first one is a Instagram, and I think she has an Etsy shop, maker called the Doily Maven, and she does crochet doilies. Someone's going to correct me, or please correct me, because I've never known, and I guess I could have looked this up, but I didn't, whether it's fillet crochet or fillet. It looks like fillet, like a fillet of fish, but for some reason in my head I think it's like fillet. But it's the very sort of lacy crochet, where you can then make sort of designs in it, almost like it almost then kind of like takes the form of like a needlepoint, or like a cross stitch, that sort of thing, like intarsia almost, where you can create designs, and you often see it where there's animal shapes or whatever, but she does really, really fun ones with sort of provocative phrases and things. Some are provocative. I mean, some are they're just funny and awesome. But the ones that caught my attention were the sort of more, I don't want to say political, but I guess in this day and age it is, that said like protect trans kids and protect the dolls. There's one that I thought was very, very funny that says, please don't do coke in the bathroom. And they're these little doilies, so they look very sort of like old fashioned and kind of, I just kind of envision like someone's grandma with a please don't do coke in the bathroom doily on her coffee table, where she doesn't want to get your glass print on the thing. So I think it's just genius and fun. And she's based in Utah, and she sells the patterns. I don't know if she sells the actual doilies themselves, but she has some really cool videos where she shows pinning it out, and she sprays it with something to kind of like, probably like some sort of starch to sort of give it that crisp look. But go check them out. I will link to her Instagram and her Etsy shop down below. I know she sells the patterns. I don't know if she actually sells the finished doilies as well, but I thought they were genius. So the second one is also someone that I found on Instagram. It's a maker called Teacup Studios, and does crochet and has patterns. But the one that caught my eye was a tapestry, a little banner that says "Immigrants Make America Great," and here's a picture of it. And she has that pattern available for sale. I didn't check to see if it's on Ravelry, but I'm pretty sure it's on. I know it's on Etsy, but I didn't check to see if it's on Ravelry. But she's donating 100% of the sales proceeds from that pattern to the National Immigrant Justice Center. So I thought that was a great cause and a great thing to do with the pattern sales. So go check out the Teacup Studios, the Immigrants Make America Great banner tapestry. It didn't look that big. It didn't look gigantic. But and it looked pretty straightforward in terms of the crochet pattern, but it was kind of like again, kind of like knitting intarsia, what the style of crochet, I'm not 100% sure of it, maybe tapestry crochet. But I thought that was a very cool idea. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, we've missed, but it was so cool that I think it's something that they've done regularly or annually. It is a quilting, sewing based project, and it's called, I think this year it was called something about good trouble, but it's called the SEW liberal swap, and I think it works kind of like Rachel from Pearls and Polishes sock yarn swap, where people sign up to do it, then they match you up, and you commit to, in this case I think it's make a mini quilt or a bag that has some sort of political craftivist bent to it. So there's several hashtags. One is hashtag #SoLiberalSwap. The other one, this is all on Instagram. The other one is BA Craftivist, BEE, because I think there's also like this Craftivist sewing bee sort of collective thing that happens. And then they work on them over. The deadline just passed. I think they just matched people up like 10 days ago. So I apologize that this was the first day I saw this the other day, and I was, it had already happened. But people are now posting using the hashtags. They're sort of mood boards or inspiration boards, as well as works in progress, and they are so cool. I have a sewing machine. My mom is a quilter. I don't know that I have the bandwidth to try one more thing, but I was so inspired by these things that I was like, I should try to figure out how to get my mom to teach me how to quilt, because it's some just like really, really cool projects that are going on. And so go follow the hashtags again, #SoLiberalSwap and BEE, a craftivist, to check out those projects. I think it's organized by 3 makers, and reach out to me if I got this wrong, if you're someone who's involved in this. But from what I could tell, there wasn't like a single Instagram account that was this swap, but folks kept tagging these same 3 makers, and then I did see somewhere seemed like organized by these three people. So it's The Happy Sewist with underscores in between each word or dashes, Grammy Jojo 8, and Sasquatch.Stitches were the 3 people that seem to be the organizers of this. Again, the deadline passed. I don't know the end date of it, but I think it's sometime towards the end of October or maybe even into November. But I spent like half an hour today just scrolling through the hashtag and seeing these amazing projects that people work on. So kudos to all of you who are participating in this. I think it's a really, really fun, fun idea. And the work that y'all are doing is absolutely gorgeous. So go check out the #SoLiberalSwap. I thought that was such a fun idea, creating this community. You end up with, working on an inspiring project and then getting something, really beautiful and meaningful to you in the swap piece of it. So a great idea, and congrats to everyone who put this together and is participating in it. I just thought that was really, really, really amazing. Let's talk about some making. If you tuned in last week, you know that I started all the things. After I finished those 2 big projects that occupied most of my summer, I just went a little bonkers and started pulling things together and casting on everything that I possibly could. So I only have one FO, and it may be the only FO I have for a while, because some of these are a little bit bigger projects, and of course I put it here, so I'm going to have to bump something on my way to it. And this is the Beanie Faction beanie. It is a free pattern with a suggested donation to your local food bank. The pattern is from Gabs and Che over at Slip Sis. This is the first crochet beanie I've done in a couple of years. It is such a fast and fun project. The body of it went by like I feel like it was like a couple hours and I was done. So it's done in worsted weight, although if you wanted to do a little math, you could probably figure out how to do, any other weight. Sorry, I forgot to hit do not disturb, and someone is spamming me and calling me. But I did it in worsted weight. This is in Knit Picks Chroma Worsted. And since it's a free pattern, I'm not giving anything away, but you do some increases, and then work down the body in double crochet, and then you sort of switch gears and pick up, not pick up, but you start doing the ribbing the opposite direction, knitting through the back, or crocheting through the back loop, single crochet through the back loop. And yeah, I love the way it turned out. I think it was really fun. The way that the chroma kind of gave you stripes going one way, and then color blocking. I mean, they're very wide stripes going the other way. Like I said, the body went super duper fast, and then I got to the ribbing. I was like, well, this is gonna take forever, because unlike knitted ribbing, each rib is a row. But quite frankly, once I got the hang of it, and it being crochet and me, once I realized that, yes, I'm going to have to basically count stitches almost every single row, because I can never figure out crochet stitches without counting. It actually went pretty quickly. Now, I will say I had a notion, because I think I definitely will make more of these, because again, the body worked up so quickly. You can see here, sorry for the squeaking, and okay, you can see there the line where the increases happen, to get you to the full circumference before you start going down in the body. And the way that the pattern has you do it is unlike some crochet in the round patterns where you would knit around, chain up, or slip stitch to close the round, chain up, and then start working around. This one just basically, once you get through the increases, just has you working in the spiral. So when you end a row, you get back to the beginning of the round, you have this little step up, and you just keep going around. So you don't build back up and then go flat. I hope that's making sense. Which then, when you get to the point where you're going to make the ribbing, it's not a flush edge. And so the way that they have it works out, the way they have you do the ribbing crochet wise works out perfectly. But given that I think that knit ribbing is faster, that I thought maybe the next time I try it, once I'm done with the increases, I would switch to, rather than going in a spiral, I would do the thing where you slip stitch, chain up, and then do it again, so that when you end the body, you end up with the flush round, and then you could just literally pick up and knit 6 or 7 rounds of ribbing, and it might be an even faster project. So I may play around with that. I've got another crochet beanie, totally different pattern, that I'm going to start at some point in the relatively near future. But then maybe I'll come back to it again as I try to build up my little package to send off to Knit the Rainbow this year. So that's where that's going to go. That's going to go to Knit the Rainbow, as will the second one that I'm working on. And I have a whole tub of yarn that's kind of dedicated for charity knits. A lot of it worsted and bulky, so they're pretty fast projects. So I may play around with that and see how it goes. And maybe in the pattern notes, when the project notes, when I do that, I'll write up exactly how I did it. But it's pretty straightforward. But thanks, Gabs and Che, for that great free pattern, and go check it out if you're a crocheter and you want a quick, fun charity project. That's a great one to have in your quiver. So that is the only FO I have this episode, but I do have a lot of WIPs to talk about. Let's see. Let's start right here with, since we're talking about crochet, this is my Tunisian crochet project. It was on my list of resolutions, intentions for this year, was to do a Tunisian crochet project. It had been a couple years since I've done one, And so I had teed up and started the Loveland shawl from Tony Lipsy, and everything is a tangled mess here. So one moment. Okay. You don't need to see the hook. But this is where I am. This is the first section. It's a 3-section shawl. You have this solid section, then there's a stripe section, and then there's a mesh section. This is being done in Land of the Living colorway. It's a DK weight 2-color Tunisian crochet pattern. So this is Land of the Living from the Coco collection from Treehouse Knits from, my gosh, it must be 3 or 4 years ago now, at least. But I was a huge fan. My stash proves it. This is on her MCN DK base, so it's super, super soft. The fabric is pretty dense, so it's going to be a pretty heavy, even for a DK weight, it's going to be a pretty heavy shawl. At least this section of it, I assume since there's a mesh section, that's going to be a little airier, a little lighter, so we'll see how that goes. You can see, it's Tunisian crochet, so if you're familiar with that, you know that it has a tendency to curl. That'll all get blocked out at the end of the day. This section is mainly done in the Tunisian knit stitch, so it does kind of look like stockinette. The other color that I'm doing for the... I know the stripes are the two together because stripes. But this is a magpie fiber called Adela is the Greatest. So I thought those two worked great together. There is occasionally a little pop of kind of a brownie olive in the Land of the Living. So I think that's going to be nice together. And actually will, in my shawl wardrobe, kind of fill a little bit of gap. I mean, I have some olive in there, but I don't really have any like reds and pinks. And oranges, so I think that'll be. Well, I guess I'm looking over at it now. I guess there's some orange, but nothing in this family. So I think it'll be a nice addition. It's been fun. I will say, Tunisian crochet, probably because I have not done as much of it, but I think also just the mechanics of it. It is slower for me than either knitting or crocheting, just in the action. So I will say maybe faster than crochet, only because I don't have to count like I do in crochet, because your stitches for one pass stay on the cord. But just the motion and the way that you it's just a little bit slower than either of those things. So it's not difficult, but it's just a different motion. I'm really enjoying it. I think that's going to be probably through the rest of the fall, winter, winter project. We'll see how some of these others go, but just because it's a little bit slower going. And also, I have found that I wouldn't say it hurts my hands, but and again, this may just be because I don't do a ton of it, and it's just I'm building muscles, which makes it sound like I'm working out, but using muscles that are different than the ones I normally do when I'm knitting. That my hands get a little tired, after an hour or so of doing it. So I have to kind of mix and match with other projects. So that is the Loveland shawl by Tony Lipsy, Tunisian crochet. The other shawl I'm working on, we'll just try to keep things flowing in some sort of thematic fashion, is my Night Shift. Sorry for all the dangling things here. This is a triangular shawl from Andrea Mallory. So here is the beginning, and you just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. It is slip stitch mosaic pattern. It is using, I am using Spin Cycle Dream State, which is the Spin Cycle worsted weight, although I would say it's light worsted. It feels more like a DK weight, although it is, again, a kind of a dense fabric because of the slip stitches. On 50% of the rows, you kind of have two yarns going at the same time. And these are the original colors that Andrea Mowry used in her sample. I think I've mentioned this, but Modern Daily Knitting, sometime last year, I think, had a sale and had the original colorways in a kit, and I bought it just because I've always liked the way it looks in her photos. And it's my first time really doing a big project with Spin Cycle. I've used a little bit of it in a hat before, and it's really fun. I love the color changes are sort of slow and gradient, but it is very potato chip because you're just waiting for the way that the pattern works as well. You're just waiting for that next color change to kind of see how the colors are going to play together. So I am enjoying it. I think that this is going to be a heavy shawl. Most likely will get used mainly as kind of like a throw and lap blanket and things like that in the wintertime when it's cooler in the house. Unless I can't see myself giving it away because I really love the colors. Although someone was like, you could just send it to me. I was like, I could. But yeah, so there's, I think is it 6 colors? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think it's 6 colors of the Spin Cycle. And I'm enjoying the pattern. I will say 2 things, 1 pro, 1 con. The pro is she seems to be very mindful of using, of yarn, not having a lot of yarn waste, at least where she can without making this thing gigantic. So you've got 6 colors. So there's going to be some left over, I think, just the way that things work and the way the pattern works. But you're not going to end up with a lot of every yarn. So the first sort of one that I will call the main color, which is kind of the background color here, this is all I had left. And that is significantly more than what I had left of the second color. I mean, thank goodness it was in a bag and I didn't see the ball shrinking because I would have probably freaked out that I was like, I mean, is it a yard? I don't even know. It's probably just a little bit over a yard of fabric, maybe 2, that in this colorway that I was left over. Now, I think that each progressive, successive colorway, I'll probably, have a little bit more of it. But the next one, that's, I'm only 3 or 4 rows into the section that uses that as the background color. We may make and obviously each row is getting longer and longer. We may make a pretty good dent in that, but I'm expecting to have enough left over to maybe do like a fun, scrappy Spin Cycle hat, because, these could just be one little stripe or something in them. And then, we'll use whatever we have more of as sort of the base. So I'm about to sneeze. Okay. I only sneezed twice, and usually it's 3, so we may have a follow-up here in a second, and we'll bleep it out as well. But apologize for that. So yeah, that's The Night Shift by Andrea Mowry. Oh, the negative. That is not my favorite thing. So, and the pattern is written this way, so it's intentional, and I think not user error on my part. But this edge, which is the increasing edge, and you can probably see it best here, there are rows where you get like a double blip right at the edge. It's made more obvious because you also have the I cord going up there, which isn't on that color. But it just creates kind of what to me feels like a bit of like a sloppiness on that edge, where the spacing of the little blips gets thrown off because what you're doing is basically doing, in the contrasting color, you do 2 knits right next to each other on the small blips, which are 1 knit, 1 slip, and then on some of the rows you do the increase, which is always a make 1, and then you have a knit stitch right next to it, and so it creates that kind of like blob effect, which sort of breaks up, in my eye, the sort of symmetry of having all those evenly spaced little blips. You just get kind of that what looks sloppy edge to it. And I thought for some time that it was the way that I was carrying the yarn up and doing the increase, but it doesn't seem to matter. I've tried it many different ways, and you just can't. It doesn't seem to avoid it. At the end of the day, when it's wrapped around my neck, you're not gonna really notice. But as I'm working on it, I'm just like, that kind of bugs me. So that's my one negative about that. But it's an Andrew Mallory pattern, which I've done a couple of. They always seem to be very well written and thought out, and I do like the fact that she seems mindful about yarn management and not having a lot of leftover of everything at the end of the day. The next thing I am working on is a pair of socks. These are the Harriet sock from Summerlee. I'm calling it my Harriet Jane Austen sock because the colorway is called My Courage Always Rises, which I have been told is a reference to, I believe, Pride and Prejudice. This is from the Summerlee Sock Project book. Kind of have these double cables on the outside edge, which then, when you get to the heel flap, split and just become one that's going to then run down kind of the edges of the foot. This is a Woolenberry colorway called My Courage Always Rises, which was a gift from Rachel at Pearls and Polish as part of her sock swap this year. There was a mini in this blue, so I decided just to do the heels in those, and then to do this sort of tonal red for the rest of the sock. I think I mentioned last time I found an error in the pattern. Couldn't find any errata anywhere, but it was easy enough fix. I'm gonna see again when I do the second sock. That was a stitch count issue up in the leg. When I got down to the picking up the gusset stitches and after the heel flap, something also did not work out for me the way that it was written in the pattern. Again, it was a quick adjustment of adding a stitch here, taking a stitch away there to get things back on track. But when I'll pay a little closer attention to the instructions when I do the second sock to see if that is a real issue in the pattern, and then maybe in the project notes I'll make a note of it as well. But these just kind of chugging along. I'm now through the gusset increases or decreases, and it's a quick, easy 4-row repeat. So I'm just kind of pick it up and we'll try to do 4 rows and then move on to something else. But it's a good kind of palette cleanser in between other things. Again, I've still got a second sock to do, so this is probably not going to get finished up until the spring, because I do have other socks that I'm going to be working on in the meantime. But it's nice to have, I like to have a little smorgasbord of different things to work. So I like having a cable project, and I like also having a colorwork project. So if I'm in the mood to do one or the other, I kind of have those at hand. And as long as I'm pretty clear about where I'm stopping and starting, especially on a cable, I know now that I'm always going to stop. Not going to pick it up and even try if I know I don't have enough time to get through a full 4-row repeat and end after I've completed the cables, because then I just know every time I pick it up, I'm starting on a row 1, and that's where I am. Although I'm getting a little bit better at looking at a cable pattern and seeing where I am, but I'm still not 100% there. But that's the Harriet sock. Living in my Nantucket Kind bag. Thank you, Lynn. And the last thing that I was going to show, I do have a couple other projects that I'm not going to show just because, they're not particularly exciting at the moment. But I'll talk about them. This is my doodle hat. The first time I'm ever doing a doodle project. I'm doing the doodle. I talked about doing a cowl or a hat, and I opted to do a hat just because... one, it was a little bit faster and was going to kind of scratch the itch of wanting to do some color work. And then at a later date, I will figure out which style of the cowl, whether I do the close knit or the longer one. I think probably will be the longer one because I just think it's more flexible. But anyway, this is all being done in Madeline Tosh DK in a bunch of different colors, which will be listed down below. But I'm not going to go through all the bell buttons now. But here's where we are. Cute, huh? Yeah, I think it's really turning out well. I am just about to do another large motif. So these little trees were the first large motif, and then there's going to be some snowflakes And then, I think there's a couple little bands of, you know, four or, 3 or 4 row, just little motifs. And then we'll be start ready for the crown decreases. So I'm hoping that in the next week or so, I will be able to wrap this up and then figure out what I'm going to do with it. I think it's a little feel like my mom doesn't get out and about, and it never gets really cold here to do it. I think maybe a little cowl would probably be more her style, and I guess I could send it off to Knit the Rainbow, but we'll see. We'll see who gets to be the lucky recipient of it. But I'm really happy with the way that it's turning out. I use the Norwegian knitting thimble, and which I found has helped with the tension. Although I did notice on one of these rows where it was 1 by 1 color work, that even with the thimble, the tension got a little bit tight, and I just have to be really mindful of trying to keep it loose. But for the most part, I've been very happy with using the little thimble to do that. I don't know if it was on here or if it was on Ravelry, but catching the floats, I guess on the other pattern I'd done, I hadn't ever caught floats both ways, but one of them I haven't figured out a way how to catch the floats. I think it's when you're trying to catch the float of the yarn that's the farthest away from you, without twisting the stitch, and so you just have to be careful when you come back around that the next time around that you sort of untwist those stitches. But again, I think I said this last time, but if you're a Norwegian thimble user and you know of a way to catch floats both ways without having a twisted stitch situation, let me know. But this is Holiday Doodle Hat from Pacific Knit Co., Queen of the Doodles, all in Madeline Tosh DK. It is living in a beautiful sister kind of Christmassy bag, so all thematically together. That is it on the FOs that I'm going to show, or the FOs, the WIPs I'm going to show. I have made some more progress on my Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart, which is a 2021 advent that I'm slowly but surely working through. And then I did cast on, I'd swatched, everything worked out well, for my basic navy set and sleeve cardigan that I'm making for myself using the basic pattern from the Amy Herzog Ultimate Sweater book, and using sport weight yarn from Treehouse Knits. Again, it's just a very basic navy blue sweater. The reason I'm not showing it is because I'm 1.5 inches into 2 inches of ribbing on the, it's knit in pieces. So I'm on the back and it's ribbing, and then it's going to be straight knitting for, I think 17 inches or something like that. So I got a ways to go before there's really much to show. But I'm glad to get that started, because that's a project that's not a process. Well, it is. I guess it's both. I really want the product, but I'm very interested in the process as well, because I've never knit a sweater in pieces. I've never done a set and sleeve of anything. No, my husband's sweater was knit in pieces, but I think it was more like a drop shoulder. Who knows? I can't remember. But I'm excited for both the process and the product. No acquisitions well, that's not true. That's not true. The acquisitions tie into what is one of the things that is coming next. So 2 things eminently about to get started. One, I mentioned I'm going to be doing additional socks. I have my friend who was the recipient of the Marled Magic Schlanket. Her partner wanted a pair of socks, and so I'm going to knit a pair of rainbow socks for her in the Always Be Kind Inclusive Pride stripes. I'm going to get that cast on here in just a little bit. I have some travel coming up in the next month, and I think that'll be a great project to take with me. I think I'm just going to do them one at a time. Heel, flap, and gusset. I need to sit down and do all the math. I have her measurements, and I just need to sit down and do all the math on that to get that written out so I can have that with me. Just because I don't love the idea of I'm doing them one at a time, just because I don't love the idea of splitting the balls, splitting the yarn up into two balls, having two things for the heels and the heels, toes, and cuffs, and then having all of that yarn management while I'm on the road. It's a as a woman I used to work with say, too much of muchness. It's just a lot of moving pieces when you are in a car or on a plane and you've got limited amount of space to kind of organize things, and everything just gets to be a tangled mess. So I think that I'm just going to do them one at a time, and be mindful of the the measurements and matching up the stripes and things like that. So that is one thing that's going to start. The other thing that's going to start is the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So that is 1 week from yesterday, I think. October 2nd is when, oh no, maybe today's Wednesday. Maybe it's a week from today. I don't know. Anyway, October 2nd, the first clue comes out. I have made my selection of the colors that I'm going to use. I appreciate everyone who weighed in. I was sort of leaning in one direction, and y'all almost convinced me to go another way. But then I just coming back. So the blues, the kit that I was calling, or the kit, my kit from Stash that I was calling Ice Ice Baby, which was kind of a blue tonal gradient, blue to gray, was very popular, and I think I would probably have loved it at the end of the day, but it just felt too much like my Geo gradient from the last Mystery Knit Along that I completed, or that I actually worked on and completed, which is all greens, and it was also similar to the shawl that I did last year during the Mystery Knit Along. So if you'll recall, last year I didn't participate in the Mystery Knit Along, but I wanted to knit a Stephen West shawl because I had a ton of them in my queue. So I knit one in a blue within a blue gradient, blue to white to gray gradient. I can see it up there, and I'm flaking on the name of the shawl. Here it is. But that's the one I worked on. So I kind of felt like, I just did kind of a blue and blue gradient to gray shawl in Stephen West. So that felt a little like too soon. So I ended up doing the kit that I was calling Autumnal Blow Pop. And as a refresher, here are the colors. So we have this, someone said a chocolate, so there were a lot of suggestions, and some I thought were awesome and great, but because I didn't want to go out and buy more yarn for the project, although I did, I was pretty much stuck with what I had in Stash. And so someone had said like, you maybe swap that out for more of a chocolatey brown. Now I think that's milk chocolate, maybe not dark chocolate, but I feel like that's a chocolatey brown. But you see there's a little bit of tonality in there that I think really should work well with this. This is America from Patrick Knits, which is Patrick of Biscott Yarns. The colorway is called Charlie. But I think it works really well, and that sort of a little bit of the tonality gets picked up with this Marigold, which is, again, from the Cocoa Collection from Treehouse Knits. And so I think that's going to be nice together. I think one of the things that sold me on this palette is I think I can see each of these colors working together nicely. I did take a picture in black and white, and it's there's obviously some nice contrast here and here, and I think here and here, but some of them were not super different, but I think with 4 yarns they're not going to be all super different. So then I have this pink, I would say carnation pink, maybe a little paler than that. This is Jody's Cake from Les Garçons, in their BFL sock, and also in their BFL sock, Abador's Waters from Les Garçons as well. But I think what I liked about it is I think each of these colors works with each of the other ones. So I think regardless of how Steven mixes them up, I'm going to be pleased with the with the mixing. So I mean, the only one that maybe I don't, even that I think is going to be fun. The blue and the pink will be nice to work together, assuming that you're going to be mixing these colors in the same row in some fashion at some point during the thing. So I had, for a mohair dare, I had some of the marigold from Treehouse Knits in her Surrey lace, so Surrey alpaca silk. But I think I expressed my concern that some of the clues are going to be coming out while I'm on the road, and if Steven is like, here's a great place to do a mohair dare, and I have this, like, I don't know, is that going to be weird together as the mohair dare? I was sort of like, well, I'll just either not follow his exact advice and just use it whenever I have the yellow, or even maybe the brown and the thing would be an interesting mix. I'll play around with it when I get there. But as I was in New York, I happened to be in a neighborhood where there was a yarn store I'd never been to, Annie's, I think it's called Needlepoint Yarn, on the Upper East Side. And I was like, oh, I don't know, I've never been there. I don't know what their selection is like, but let me just pop in and see if maybe I can find another mohair that would be working well with those. And I found two. So when I said I didn't want to buy any new yarn for the MKAL, I meant main skeins. So I found this pinky. It's has a little more purple than that pink, but I think that'll be a nice blend. I think it'll also could work with some of the other colors. And then this is from Ella Ray Silky Kid, so this is mohair silk. And then from Murky Depths, I found this blue, which is a very nice match to the blue from Les Garçons. So, and this is in her Mirage base, which is also mohair silk. This is called Waltz Cook. So I got those. He said, all you need is 25 grams. So I'm going to wind up small little bobs of each of those and take them along for the ride. As I said, because you never know what's coming, I'm going to end up taking like all of the yarn with me on the road. Not great from a packing management standpoint, but I think it'll be fine. I think I'll probably just end up with the socks and the mystery knit along, and shouldn't be up to a gigantic size, the piece itself. So I think it'll be pretty manageable. So that's it in terms of acquisition. It's just those two little things. And I've done a really nice job with all of these starts, which is when things get subtracted from my stash. So I'm still on track to end the year in a fairly significant net negative inventory standpoint for the stash. So I feel really good about that. I thank you for spending, and I did keep it under an hour, so I like that. Spending some time with me this week, taking time out of your schedule to spend it with me. I hope you're having a wonderful beginning of fall. To all of those of you who are going to be going to Rhinebeck in the next few weeks, know that I am suffering significant FOMO. I would love to see everybody and get hugs and share apple cider donuts and all of the things that happen at Rhinebeck and all the events of that weekend. But alas, that is not where I will be on the road to. But take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you at some point in the near future. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.